Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My name is Maurice Turner. I am 36 years old. The papers hit the kitchen counter with a crisp sound that cut through the silence like a blade. Divorce papers. On the same day, my wife had just gotten the biggest promotion of her career. I stared at the documents while she stood there, arms crossed, looking like she had just won the lottery, which in a way she had. Vice president of operations at her company, six-figure salary, stock options, the whole package. "I do not need you anymore," she said, her voice steady and matter-of-fact. "I can take care of myself now." 7 years of marriage. 7 years of me working overtime at the manufacturing plant, covering the mortgage while she climbed the corporate ladder. 7 years of supporting her through late nights, weekend conferences, and every step of her career advancement. And this was my reward. I picked up the pen she placed next to the papers. She expected drama. She expected me to beg, to argue, to make a scene. Instead, I read through the documents quickly. Standard no-fault divorce. She was keeping the house since her name was on the mortgage. I was keeping my truck and my savings account. Clean split. I signed every page without saying a word. "That is it?" she asked, clearly caught off guard. "You are not going to fight this?" I looked up at her, this woman I had loved for nearly a decade, and felt something close completely inside me. "What is there to fight? You have made your choice." "I thought you would at least want to talk about it," she said. I gestured at the papers. "You brought me legal papers, not a conversation starter." I stood up and handed her the signed documents. "You will have the house to yourself by tomorrow night." Her confident expression flickered for just a moment. "Where are you going to go?" she asked. "That is not your concern anymore." I walked to our bedroom and pulled out the duffel bag I used for work trips. 7 years of life together, and everything that mattered to me fit in one bag. Clothes, important documents, a few personal items. I left the wedding photos, the shared possessions, the life we had built. If she wanted to discard our marriage, she could deal with the remnants. When I came back downstairs, she was standing in the living room looking uncertain. "You do not have to leave tonight," she said. "We can figure out the logistics." "The logistics are simple," I said. "You wanted independence. You got it." I headed for the door, duffel bag over my shoulder. "Enjoy your promotion, celebration." "Where are you going?" she asked again. I paused at the door and looked back one last time. "Somewhere you will never have to worry about me being a burden again." I drove to a local hotel and checked in for the night. From my room window, I could see lights on at the house. Her house now. I wondered if she was already opening that bottle of champagne she had been saving for her promotion, or if my reaction had dampened her mood. My phone buzzed with a text from her. "We should talk about this properly." I turned the phone off and tossed it on the nightstand. There was nothing left to talk about. She had made her decision when she had those papers drawn up. She had made her decision when she decided her promotion meant she no longer needed the man who had supported her getting there. The next morning, I called my supervisor and requested immediate transfer to our company's facility in North Carolina. 3 states away, same job, same pay, fresh start. He approved it within hours. "We could use your experience in Charlotte," he said. "If you can be here by the start of next week, we will take care of the rest." Apparently, experienced machine operators were needed everywhere. I spent the day handling business. I opened a new bank account at a different bank. I changed my phone number. I filed a change of address with the post office for a post office box in my new city. By the time I swung by the house to get my truck and a few tools from the garage, I had essentially erased myself from her world. She was not home, probably at work, reveling in her new position. I left my house keys on the kitchen counter next to a note. "Congratulations on your promotion. Enjoy your independence." The drive to North Carolina took 8 hours. 8 hours to think about how quickly someone could throw away 7 years like it meant nothing. 8 hours to realize that I had been married to someone who saw me as a stepping stone, not a partner. When I crossed the state line, I felt something I had not expected. Relief. For the first time in months, maybe years, I was not worried about her career stress, her deadlines, her next promotion. I was not planning my schedule around her needs or making sacrifices for her advancement. I was free, too. My phone stayed off for 3 days. When I finally turned it on in my new apartment, there were 17 missed calls and a dozen text messages, all from her. The messages started casual, asking where I was and when I was coming back. By the last few, the tone had shifted to something closer to panic. I deleted them all without reading past the previews and blocked her number. If she wanted to celebrate her independence, she could do it without interference from me. I had my own life to rebuild. 3 weeks into my new life in Charlotte, I had established a routine my ex-wife would never recognize. I woke up at 5:30, made coffee, read the news, and hit the gym for 45 minutes before work. I spent 8 hours running CNC machines at a facility that appreciated experienced operators. Evenings were mine to do whatever I wanted. No more coordinating schedules around her networking events. No more listening to office politics over dinner. No more walking on eggshells because she had a stressful presentation the next day. The apartment I rented was basic but comfortable. 1 bedroom, decent kitchen, and most importantly, it was mine. Every decision, from what to eat for dinner to what to watch on television, was completely my own. I had forgotten how good that felt. On the second Friday there, a neighbor named Jerome held the door for me and said, "You the new guy in 3B? I am Jerome. Welcome." I shook his hand. "Maurice. Thank you." He nodded at the duffel bag. "Looks like you travel light." "I'm learning to," I said. Back in our old city, she was learning what independence actually looked like. A co-worker at my new plant, Darren, mentioned seeing my name in the company newsletter. "You used to work at the main facility up north, right? Some woman has been calling human resources asking about you," he said in the break room. "Says she is your wife." "Ex-wife," I corrected. "And she will figure out soon that human resources does not give out employee information." Darren raised an eyebrow. She was persistent. "I bet," I said and sipped my coffee. "Through mutual friends, I heard she tried calling my old workplace, asking neighbors, even checking with my brother. She learned I had transferred, but the company would not tell her where. All she knew was that I had vanished completely." Good. By month 2, the reality of her situation was setting in. The house payment on her vice president's salary was manageable, but everything else hit different when you were doing it alone. Lawn maintenance, repairs, grocery shopping, cleaning. All the things I'd handled while she focused on her career were suddenly her responsibility. My brother, Eric, called and said he had heard she hired a lawn service. Apparently, she tried to mow it herself once and gave up after an hour, he said. She told somebody the mower felt like pushing a truck. I let out a quiet laugh. I mowed that yard for 7 years, and she barely noticed. Eric was silent for a moment. "How are you doing, Maurice?" "Better than I have in a long time," I said. "I appreciate you checking on me." Her social media told the story she wanted people to believe. Photographs of her new office, captions about living her best life, and thriving independently. But I noticed what was missing. No photographs of her beautiful house. No pictures of home-cooked meals or weekend projects. Just work events and restaurant dinners. She was working 60-hour weeks in her new position and coming home to an empty house every night. The promotion that was supposed to set her free had become a golden cage. My phone number change had been strategic. She could not text or call even if she wanted to, but she found other ways to try reaching out. She sent a friend request on social media, which I ignored. She had a mutual friend reach out asking if I was doing okay and whether we might work things out. I told the friend. She made her choice when she served me papers. I am respecting that choice completely. The friend reported back later that she was going through a rough adjustment period and maybe rushing into the divorce. Too late for that realization. By month 3, I had started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee dates and casual dinners. It felt strange at first, being responsible only for myself, making plans without checking someone else's schedule. But I adapted quickly. One evening, while I was having dinner with a woman I met at the gym, her name was Lauren, a kindergarten teacher who liked hiking and cooking, my brother called. "She's been asking Mom about you," Eric said. "Wants to know if you were okay, where you were living, if you were seeing anyone." "What did Mom tell her?" I asked. "That if you wanted her to know those things, you would tell her yourself." "Smart woman," I said. "Mom also mentioned that the house feels too big for just her. Said she is thinking about getting a roommate." I pictured the 4-bedroom house she had insisted on keeping. "She can fill it with furniture and strangers," I said. "It will still be empty." After dinner, I walked Lauren to her car. She smiled and said, "Thank you for the evening." "Thank you," I said. "I would like to do this again." She nodded. "I would too." As she drove off, I thought about the contrast. My ex-wife was rattling around in a house overwhelmed by the responsibility, probably eating takeout most nights. I was in a one-bedroom apartment, content, and building something new. 6 months after I had signed those papers, she made her first real attempt to track me down. She hired a private investigator. My brother called to warn me. "She is getting desperate," he said. The private investigator already contacted Mom, asking about your job, your habits, whether you had moved out of state. "Did you tell Mom to be careful what she says?" I asked. "Mom hung up on him," he said. "She told me, if my son wanted to be found, he would not have disappeared in the first place." The private investigator got nowhere. I had been thorough in my exit strategy. New bank, new phone, new address, new state. The only connection to my old life was my job, and the company protected employee information religiously. But her desperation was telling. 6 months of independence, and she was paying strangers to find the man she had discarded. The promotion that was supposed to make her complete had left her feeling more empty than ever. I, on the other hand, was thriving. New friends, new routines, new possibilities. The manufacturing plant offered me a supervisor position after just 4 months. Better pay, better hours, better future. None of it would have been possible if I had stayed trapped in a marriage where I was seen as expendable. That night, I raised a beer on my back stoop, not to toast her independence, but to honor my own. Year 1 passed like a season of recovery. I threw myself into work, earned my supervisor position, and started taking night classes in industrial management. The company was paying for it, seeing potential in someone who showed up consistently and delivered results. My social life rebuilt itself naturally. Friday night poker games with coworkers, weekend fishing trips with a guy from maintenance named Curtis, a few relationships that lasted a few months each. Nothing serious, but nothing lonely either. I was learning who I was without constantly accommodating someone else's ambitions. Meanwhile, the updates about her life came sporadically through family channels. Eric mentioned she had to hire a property management company to handle house maintenance. He said she tried dating, but nothing stuck. The promotion that was supposed to transform her life had mostly just given her longer hours and more stress. On a call, Eric said, "She looked tired when I saw her once at the grocery store. She did not see me." I almost said something. Then I remembered she did this to herself. I told him, "You did the right thing by walking away." By year 2, I had stopped asking about her entirely. My mother stopped volunteering information. The divorce was final. The past was buried, and I was genuinely moving forward. I bought a small house with 3 acres outside the city. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I spent weekends working on it, building a workshop, fixing things because I wanted to, not because someone expected me to. My neighbor, Mr. Wallace, was a retired mechanic who taught me engine repair. He was patient and detailed. "Tighten until it is snug," he said one Saturday, watching me torque a bolt. "Not until it begs for mercy." I laughed and thanked him for the lesson. The dating became more serious in year 3. I met Lauren again by chance at a bookstore downtown. She was in the education aisle looking at journals for her students when I walked by with a stack of management textbooks. "Maurice," she said, smiling. "Lauren," I said. "Looks like we both found the quietest corner." We went for coffee. She asked, "How is the new role?" I told her about supervising a team and the challenge of balancing production schedules with people's lives. She listened without measuring what I said against her own ladder. She liked hiking, cooking, and actual conversations about things other than quarterly reports. We took it slow, both of us having been hurt before. Lauren never asked about my ex-wife. She knew I had been married, knew it had ended badly, and respected that some doors were better left closed. That kind of emotional intelligence was refreshing after years with someone who saw every conversation as a strategic opportunity. We spent Sunday afternoons testing recipes we had never tried. Roasted chicken with herbs from my small garden, lemon pasta with fresh vegetables, homemade cornbread. We walked trail loops at a park by the lake, and sometimes we just sat quietly, comfortable in a peace that did not need to be earned every minute. By year 4, I was a different person living a different life. The plant manager had offered me a pathway to operations director. Lauren and I were talking about moving in together. I had savings, investments, and plans that belonged entirely to me. Then my brother called with news that broke the 4-year silence like a bottle on concrete. She has been asking about you again, he said during our monthly check-in. But this time, it is different. Different how? I asked, feeling that old weight try to climb back into my chest. She is desperate, he said. He explained what he had learned through mutual friends. The vice president position that was supposed to be her golden ticket had become a nightmare. Corporate restructuring meant longer hours, impossible targets, and constant pressure. She was working 70-hour weeks and barely keeping up. She told someone she made the biggest mistake of her life. That is what happens when you treat people like stepping stones, I said. Eric sighed. There is more. She has been trying to track you down for months. She knows you are in North Carolina, but she cannot get specifics. She even drove down there once, hoping to find you. The idea of her desperately searching for someone she had casually discarded years earlier should have felt satisfying. Instead, it just felt sad. She asked Mom if you ever talk about her. Eric said. What did Mom say? I asked. That you talk about your future, not your past. I nodded. Perfect answer. I hung up and went out to the porch. The air was cool. Crickets started their shift at the edges of the yard. The world felt simple. A week later, I was having dinner with Lauren when my personal email chimed with a message from an address I did not recognize. The subject line made my stomach drop. Please just read this. I knew immediately who it was from. Lauren noticed my expression. Is everything okay? She asked. I forced a smile. Just work stuff. I will handle it later. I put the phone away, but curiosity got the better of me that night after she went home. I opened the email. The message was long and wandering, a confession about mistakes, loneliness, and regret. She had found my email through a mutual connection and poured out 4 years of accumulated remorse. The house was too big. The job was consuming her life. She wrote that she had realized success meant nothing without someone to share it with. The email ended with a phone number and a plea to call her, just to talk, just to see if we could try again. I read it twice, then deleted it. But she was not done. The emails kept coming, one every few days, each more desperate than the last. She had seen my professional profile and knew I was doing well. It was driving her crazy that I had built a good life without her. I know I hurt you. One email read. I know I made a terrible mistake, but cannot people change? Cannot we try again? Another one said, I've been thinking about what we had for 4 years. I threw away the best thing in my life for a job that is killing me. I saved them all in a folder, but never responded. Lauren noticed I had become distracted and asked if something was wrong. I told her about the emails, and her response was exactly what I needed to hear. She had you for 7 years and decided you were not good enough. Lauren said simply. Now that she has figured out what she lost, she wants you back. That is not love. That is panic. I thanked Lauren for saying aloud what I had been thinking. The emails continued for 2 months. Sometimes apologetic, sometimes angry, sometimes desperate. She threatened to come to North Carolina to find me. She promised she had changed. She offered to leave her job and start over somewhere new with me. All the things she could have chosen 4 years earlier before serving me with papers. I never responded to a single message. Then one day, the email stopped. For 3 weeks, silence. I thought maybe she had finally gotten the message. Maybe she had accepted that some bridges, once burned, could not be rebuilt. I was wrong. The phone call started at 7 in the morning on a Tuesday. My number had been private for 4 years, but somehow she had found it. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again and again. Lauren was making coffee when I finally checked the caller identification. Unknown number, but I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly who it was. Are you going to answer that? She asked as the phone rang for the 4th time in 10 minutes. No point, I said. If it is important, they will leave a message. But the calls kept coming every hour, sometimes twice an hour, always from different numbers. She was using various phones, probably calling from work, from friends' phones, from random numbers she could access. After the 15th call that day, I finally listened to the voicemails. Please just pick up. I know you're getting these calls. I just want to talk. Another one said, I found your number through the company directory. I know you work at the North Carolina facility now. I know you're doing well. Why will you not answer? After 7 years of marriage, she said, did she not deserve at least a conversation? The entitlement in that last message almost made me laugh. She ended our marriage with legal papers, and now she thought she deserved my time. Lauren heard the frustration in my voice when I told her about the calls. Change your number again, she suggested. I should not have to, I said. I changed it once to get away from her. Now she tracked me down 4 years later like some kind of relentless investigator. Lauren put a hand on my arm. Then let me help document this. Keep the messages. We can take steps if we need to. My supervisor pulled me aside at work the next day. Someone has been calling the main office asking about you, he said. Says she is your ex-wife, and there is a family emergency. I shook my head. There is no emergency. She's trying to force contact because I will not take her calls. He nodded. Company policy is we do not give out personal information, but she is persistent. She called 6 times yesterday. I apologize for the disruption. He waved it off. We have seen worse, but keep me posted. The calls escalated over the next week. Sometimes she cried into the voicemail. Sometimes she got angry and demanded I stop being childish. Sometimes she tried bargaining, promising things would be different if we tried again. I have been in therapy, one message claimed. I understand now what I put you through. I have changed. The house feels empty without you. I eat takeout every night because I never learned to cook the way you did. I see couples everywhere and remember what we had. I threw it away for nothing. Each message revealed more about how her perfect, independent life had crumbled. The vice president position was everything she had wanted except fulfilling. She worked constantly, had no real friends anymore, and spent weekends alone in a house too big for one person. But the message that really showed her desperation came 2 weeks into the phone campaign. I hired another private investigator, a better one this time. I know where you live. I know about your house, your girlfriend, your job promotion. I know you have built a good life, and I know I can make it better if you would just let me try. She was having me surveilled after discarding me. She was paying strangers to watch my life from a distance. That night, I called Eric. She has completely lost it, I said. She is having me followed by private investigators. He exhaled into the phone. Maybe it is time to get a restraining order. Maybe it is time to answer one of her calls and end this permanently, I said. Lauren overheard the conversation and stepped into the doorway of my office. You do not owe her anything, Lauren said. Not a phone call, not an explanation, not closure. She made her choice. I nodded, grateful for her clarity, but the harassment was affecting both our lives now. Lauren could not come over without wondering if someone was watching. I cannot focus at work knowing my ex-wife was paying people to document my routine. The final straw came when she showed up at my workplace. I was coming back from lunch when my supervisor flagged me down. There is a woman in the parking lot asking employees about you, he said. So she's your wife? Well, ex-wife. And she needs to leave. Security already talked to her. She is sitting in a car across the street now. I looked out the window and saw her BMW parked where she could watch the employee entrance. 4 years after I had walked away, she sat in a car, waiting like some obsessed teenager. That afternoon, she followed me home. I drove carefully, taking my normal route, not acknowledging the car behind me. But when I pulled into my driveway, she parked on the street and got out. Time had changed her. The confident corporate executive who had served me divorce papers looked exhausted. Expensive clothes could not hide the weight loss, the stress lines, or the desperation in her eyes. She started walking toward my front door. Lauren's car was in the driveway, too. She had beaten me home from her teaching job and was probably inside grading papers, unaware that my past was about to confront my present. This was it. 4 years of silence, months of harassment, and now she was forcing the confrontation I had been avoiding. I got out of my truck and met her halfway across the yard. You need to leave, I said calmly. I just want to talk. 5 minutes, that is all I am asking. You had 7 years to talk, I said. You chose legal papers instead. I made a mistake, she said. Cannot people make mistakes? They can, but they live with the consequences, I said. She looked toward the house where Lauren's silhouette was visible through the kitchen window. Is she why you will not give me a chance? No, I said. You are why I will not give you a chance. I have changed, she said. I studied her face, looking for any trace of the woman I had once loved. All I saw was someone who had finally run out of other options. Maybe you had changed, I said, but I have too. And the person I am now knows better than to trust someone who throws people away when they think they have found something better. Her composure finally cracked. I was scared, she said. The promotion, the money, the independence. It made me feel powerful for the first time in my life. You were right, I said. You did not need me. You made that very clear. But I want you, she said softly. Is that not enough? No, I said. It is not. She stood there for a moment, realizing that 4 years of building toward this conversation had led to a dead end. So that is it, she said. You will not even consider trying again. I signed your papers 4 years ago, I said. That was me trying to respect your decision and move on with my life. She shook her head, almost to herself. I did not think you would actually stay gone. That is the problem, I said. You thought you could have it both ways. Lauren appeared at the front door, probably wondering why I was having an intense conversation with a stranger in our driveway. I should go, my ex-wife said. And you should stop calling. I said, stop following me, and stop making this harder than it needs to be. She lifted her chin. This is not over. Yes, I said. It is. I walked toward my house, toward Lauren, toward the life I had built without her. Behind me, I heard the car door slam, and her BMW drove away. I had a feeling she was not done yet. After the driveway confrontation, I thought maybe she had finally gotten the message. For 3 days, my phone was quiet. Lauren and I had dinner without interruption, watched movies without my phone buzzing every hour, and started to believe the harassment might be over. We were wrong. On Thursday morning, I woke to find my voicemail box completely full. The notification said I had 99 new messages, all from the previous night. What in the world? I muttered, grabbing my coffee and sitting down to see what kind of breakdown I had missed. Lauren looked over from where she was packing her teaching supplies. More calls. 99 voicemails, I said. She must have called all night. The messages started around midnight and continued until 4 in the morning. At first, they were relatively coherent. I know you do not want to talk to me, but I cannot stop thinking about our conversation. I keep replaying what you said about throwing people away, and you were right. I did throw you away, but I want to fix it. By message 20, the tone had shifted. I drove by your old apartment complex today, the one where you lived when we first met. Do you remember how happy we were then, before everything got complicated? Message 40 was where things got concerning. I quit my job today, she said. The vice president position that I chose over you. I walked into my boss's office and resigned. If that job was what came between us, then it is gone now. I paused the playback and stared at my phone. She had quit the job she had destroyed our marriage to get. The promotion that was supposed to set her free had become so meaningless she had thrown it away, too. Lauren listened from the kitchen. She quit her job, I said. Apparently, Lauren said, keep listening. Message 60 showed the real depth of her spiral. I'm sitting in the parking lot of our old grocery store, the one where we used to shop together every Saturday morning. I bought groceries for one person tonight, and I could not stop crying in the cereal aisle. The clerk asked if I was okay, and I almost told him about you. By message 80, she was barely coherent. I know you have someone new. I saw her through your kitchen window. She is pretty. She probably does not demand you work overtime to pay for her ambitions. She probably appreciates what she has. The final messages, recorded around 4 in the morning, were just sobbing and fragments of sentences. I cannot sleep. I have not slept properly in months. I keep dreaming about the day I gave you those papers. Your face when you signed them. I thought you would fight for us. I deleted the entire batch and blocked the number she had been calling from. But she was not done. Over the next 2 weeks, the voicemails kept coming from different numbers. Work phones, friends' phones, prepaid cells. She was determined to fill my voicemail box with her regret. Some messages were angry. You are being cruel. I know you're listening to these. I know you could forgive me if you wanted to. You are choosing to hold this grudge because it makes you feel powerful. Some are bargaining. I will move to North Carolina. I will get a job here, a small apartment. I will not interfere with your life. I just want to be in the same city again. Maybe we could start over as friends. Some are just hollow. I hired a dating coach, she said. She told me I need to learn how to be vulnerable again. She said I built walls after our divorce to protect myself from feeling the way you made me feel when you left. I started keeping a count. After 3 weeks, I was up to 150 voicemails across various numbers. Lauren suggested I change my number again, but I was curious to see how far she would take this. The answer came on a Friday evening when I got home from work to find 203 voicemails waiting for me. 200, I told Lauren, showing her my phone. She left 200 voicemails. Lauren shook her head. That is not romantic persistence. That is stalking. I scrolled through the timestamps. She had been calling every 15 minutes for hours, leaving message after message like some kind of broken metronome. Let us listen to a few, I said, settling onto the couch with Lauren. I want you to hear what 4 years of independence actually bought her. We started with message number 50, where she was explaining how empty her house felt. I moved into the guest bedroom because our old bedroom feels like a crime scene. I cannot look at that bed without remembering how I told you I did not need you anymore. I sleep on a twin mattress now, like I am in college again. Message 100 was recorded from what sounded like a restaurant. I am having dinner alone again. There's a couple at the next table, and they are arguing about something small, but at least they are arguing together. I did not even have anyone to fight with anymore. Message 150 sounded like she had been drinking. I called your brother tonight. He hung up on me. Your mother will not take my calls either. I have been erased from your family, like I never existed. 7 years of holidays and birthdays, and now I am nobody to them. But it was message 190 that showed how far she had fallen. I went to therapy today and told Dr. Rodriguez about you. She asked me to describe what I lost, and I could not stop talking for an hour. She said I am grieving the life I chose not to have. She said some mistakes are too big to fix. Lauren muted the phone and looked at me. This is actually sad, she said. She is completely broken. She broke herself, I said. I did not do this to her. I know that, Lauren said, but listening to someone's breakdown feels wrong, even if they brought it on themselves. The final few messages were recorded around 3 in the morning and were barely audible. I know you will not call me back. I know this is pointless, but I had to try. I had to let you know that losing you was the worst thing that ever happened to me. If I could go back to that day, if I could take back those papers, I would choose you every time. I would choose us. The last message was 10 seconds of crying followed by silence. I set the phone down and looked at Lauren. 200 voicemails over 3 weeks, I said. That is what happens when someone realizes they threw away the best thing in their life for a job title. Lauren asked, Are you going to respond? Why would I? I asked. What is left to say? Maybe telling her to stop would end this, she said gently. No, I said. Responding would just encourage her. She would take any contact as hope that she could wear me down eventually. For a while, even I was surprised by what came next. My phone rang, and for the first time in 4 years, I recognized the number immediately. It was her old home phone, the landline in the house she kept in the divorce. I stared at the screen as it rang. Answer it, Lauren said quietly. End this, permanently. I picked up on the 4th ring. Hello. You answered, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I cannot believe you actually answered. I'm answering to tell you this stops now, I said. The calls, the voicemails, the following me around, all of it stops. There was a long pause. I just need you to know that I understand now, she said. I understand what I did to you, what I threw away, why you hate me. I do not hate you, I said. I nothing you. You were a stranger who used to be married to someone I used to be. The line was quiet for so long, I thought she had hung up. I love you, she finally whispered. No, you do not, I said. You love the idea of not being alone. There is a difference. That is not true, she said, her voice breaking. It is true, I said. And this conversation is over. I hung up and immediately blocked the home number. Lauren was watching me with concern from the doorway. How do you feel? She asked. Relieved, I said. That was probably the last time I will ever talk to her. But I was wrong about that, too. 2 months after the phone call, she showed up at my front door on a Saturday morning. No call first, no asking permission, just there, standing on my porch like she belonged. Lauren was at her school working on lesson plans, so I was alone when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw her car parked in my driveway again. I opened the door, but did not invite her in. I drove 12 hours to get here, she said. I am not leaving until we talk properly. We talked, I said. You called 200 times to make sure of it. Face to face, like adults, she said. She looked worse than she had 2 months ago. Thinner, more desperate, like someone hanging on to the edge of a cliff. 5 minutes, I said. Then you leave and never come back. Thank you, she said. We sat on my front porch. My house, my rules, my territory. I sold the house, she said quietly. Our house. I cannot live there anymore, knowing you would never come home to it. Good for you, I said. I've been staying with my sister while I figure out what is next, she said. She thinks I'm having a breakdown. Are you? I asked. She gave a dry, humorless laugh. Probably. But at least I'm finally being honest about what I want. Which is what? I asked. You, she said. Us. Another chance to not mess up the best thing that ever happened to me. I looked at the woman who had once confidently handed me divorce papers, and now sat begging for scraps of the life she had thrown away. You did not mess up the best thing that happened to you, I said. You chose not to want it anymore. There is a difference. I was wrong, she said. No, I said. You were honest. For the first time in probably years, you told me exactly how you felt about our marriage. You did not need me, and you did not want me around anymore. But I have changed, she said, rubbing her hands together, twisting her ringless fingers. So have I said. I have learned that when someone shows you who they really are, you should believe them the first time. She was quiet for a moment, maybe finally understanding that her campaign of desperation had only proven my point. So, there is nothing I can do, nothing I can say. You can accept that some doors, once closed, do not reopen, I said. You can stop trying to force your way back into a life you voluntarily left. What about forgiveness? She asked. I forgave you 4 years ago when I signed those papers without a fight, I said. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting, and it does not mean giving someone another chance to hurt you. I would never hurt you again, she said. You hurt me when you called my workplace, I said. You hurt me when you followed me home. You hurt me when you left 200 voicemails like some kind of relentless echo. You are still hurting me by refusing to accept that we are over. She started crying then, but it was not the manipulative tears I remembered from our marriage. This was genuine grief for something she had finally realized was gone forever. I threw away 7 years for a job that made me miserable, she sobbed. I gave up the only person who ever really loved me for a promotion that meant nothing. Then you learned an expensive lesson about priorities, I said. I cannot undo it, can I? She asked. No, I said softly. You cannot. Lauren's car pulled into the driveway. She got out slowly, recognized the BMW, and understood immediately what was happening. Is this her? My ex-wife asked. That is Lauren, I said. And she is everything you are not. What do you mean? She asked, red-eyed and exhausted. She does not see me as a stepping stone. She does not take what I offer for granted. She does not think independence means discarding the people who care about you. Lauren walked up to the porch, but did not interrupt. She could see this was something I needed to finish. I should go, my ex-wife said, standing up. Yes, I said. You should. And this time, stay gone. She walked to her car without looking back. As she drove away, Lauren sat down next to me. How do you feel? She asked. Free, I said. Finally free. Do you think she will try again? Lauren asked. No, I said. She finally heard what she needed to hear. Some mistakes do not get fixed. Lauren took my hand. Good, she said, because I am not sharing you with someone else's regret. We went inside and closed the door. The house felt like mine again. The air was quiet. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the soft tick of the kitchen clock, the ordinary life I had built, steady and warm. Over the next few weeks, the silence held. No calls, no emails, no car idling at the end of the street. I focused on work, on Lauren, on a life that made sense. I met with my plant manager to map out the operations director path. We reworked a shift schedule to give parents more predictable evenings. I looked across the conference table at the supervisors and saw men and women who wanted someone to consider their lives as well as their output. I kept showing up and doing the work. One evening, Laura and I cooked together, seared salmon, roasted asparagus, and rice. She set her notebook on the counter and said, My students wrote about their heroes today. One little boy wrote about his grandfather, who taught him to fix a bike. He said, He does not rush me. He lets me learn. I smiled. That is good teaching, I said. It is good living, she said, and leaned her shoulder into mine. Later, we sat on the porch. The sky turned the color of copper before it went dark. When you signed those papers, Lauren said quietly, Did you know you would rebuild your life like this? No, I said. I only knew I had to walk away clean. I was done negotiating my dignity. She squeezed my hand. I'm glad you did. I looked toward the road where the BMW had disappeared and felt nothing but distance. I had everything I needed right here. Months passed. On a Sunday afternoon, Eric called to tell me he had run into someone who used to know my ex-wife. She moved out of the state, he said. Sold what she could not carry. Apparently, she took a consulting contract that pays well, but changes cities every few months. That sounds like the life she chased, I said. Endless motion. Nowhere to land. Eric hesitated. Do you ever think about her? Not really, I said. I think about lessons. What lessons? Eric asked. That love is not a prize you win by making yourself small, I said. That partnership is not debt and credit. That someone who says they do not need you is telling you exactly how to live. Eric was quiet for a moment. You sound like Dad, he said with a soft laugh. I will take that as a compliment, I said. Lauren and I decided, after a year of moving slowly, to move in together. We took our time combining lives. She brought a wooden table that had belonged to her grandmother and told me stories of Sunday dinners around it. I built a bigger pantry. We made space. We let the house tell us where things belonged. On a Saturday, while we were hanging curtains, she said, I used to think stability was boring. Do you still think that? I asked. She smiled. No, I think stability is a gift. On an evening walk, Lauren asked, if she had never served the papers, if she had asked for help before the promotion, do you think you would have made it? I considered the question carefully. Maybe we could have weathered the stress, I said. But the moment she handed me those papers, it told me everything. It was not stress. It was preference. She chose a life without me. And you chose a life with yourself, Lauren said. That matters. It does, I said. Once, I dreamed I was standing in our old kitchen, the one with the tile I installed and the counter where the papers landed. In the dream, the papers never hit the counter. In the dream, she came home and said, I am scared. Will you sit with me? And I said yes. We held hands. We made a plan. I woke with an ache behind my ribs, not because I wanted the dream to be true, but because I wish we had been the kind of people who could have done that. Then I got up, made coffee, and watched Lauren write a lesson plan for a science project about plants growing toward light. On a workday morning, my plant manager called me into his office and closed the door. We are ready, he said. The operations director role is yours if you want it. I sat for a moment, letting the weight of it settle. I want it, I said. He smiled. You earned it the way it should be earned. I thought about every overtime shift that covered someone else's dream, and how this time, the reward was not abandoning me. It was built with me at the center of my own life. That evening, I told Lauren. She hugged me and said, I knew they would see it. We went out to a small place we liked where the food was simple and the service kind. We toasted with water because we would both be up early. She said, what do you want this next year to look like? I told her about a training program I wanted to build for new operators, about adjusting schedules around children's school plays and medical appointments, about how company loyalty is made out of the thousands of small chances to be human. On the drive home, the radio played a song we both loved, and we sang quietly, not to fill the silence but to live in it. The road was dark and familiar. The porch light at our house was on, because we had left it on for ourselves. I did not hear from my ex-wife again. Maybe she finally listened. Maybe the last conversation on the porch closed whatever door she kept jamming her foot into. Maybe she found a different life miles away and made it look the way she needed it to look. I did not need to know. Closure is not a gift other people give you. It is a decision you make in the middle of your own living room when the light falls across the floor and you have a hand to hold, even if at first it is only your own. One Saturday, Lauren and I hosted a small dinner. Jerome from the old apartment came by with his wife, and Mr. Wallace brought a peach cobbler he insisted was better than mine. We laughed, ate, and went out to the yard where the solar lights glowed faintly along the path. We told stories. None of them had anything to do with regret. When the last dish was washed and the house was quiet again, Lauren leaned against the counter. This feels like the life I wanted and could not describe, she said. I nodded. Me too. After everyone left, I stepped onto the porch alone for a minute. The night had a clean edge. I thought about the man I was in that kitchen, signing papers with a calm hand while something inside me shut like a vault. I thought about the hotel window, the 8-hour drive, the first morning I woke up in Charlotte and did not check someone else's calendar to measure the worth of my day. If there is a secret to starting over, it is not strength alone. It is clarity. It is the quiet yes you say to yourself when there is no one else in the room. I had told myself yes. I had built from that. I had learned that loving someone does not mean letting them decide your value. It means knowing your value and letting love be a choice, not a bargain. Weeks later, while fixing a stubborn hinge on the back door, I remembered a small, strange detail from those years. How she used to leave her high heels by the mat when she came home late. How the click of them on tile announced the mood of the evening before we spoke. I realized I did not miss the sound. I did not miss the guessing. Even the memories had softened, like photographs left in sun. Lauren came out with 2 glasses of iced tea. "Do you need a hand?" she asked. "Always," I said. She held the door steady while I set the screws. The hinge settled. The door swung smoothly. We looked at each other and smiled at the small success the way some people smile at major victories. Maybe that is what a good life is, 1,000 small repairs that hold. Later, as the sky faded, I sat at the table Lauren's grandmother had owned, ran my hand along its edge, and told her a story about my father teaching me to measure twice and cut once. "He did not mean wood," I said. She tilted her head. "What did he mean?" "He meant everything," I said. "Pay attention. Give yourself time. Choose carefully. Then do not look back every 5 steps like you are waiting for permission." I had been waiting for permission once, from a woman who had already decided my place in her life was temporary. When she showed me the truth, I finally believed it. It hurt. It also set me free. Freedom looked like mornings where I set my own schedule, afternoons where I taught a young operator how to listen to a machine's rhythm, evenings where I cooked with someone who said thank you and meant it. Freedom sounded like a phone that did not ring all night, like a neighborhood cricket choir, like the soft closing of a door that worked because we fixed it. Freedom felt like a hand in mine that was there for its own reasons, not because I was a rung on a ladder. Every now and then, someone at work would ask about my past in the kind, nosy way people do when they like you. I would say, "I was married once. It ended. I moved here and started over." That was the whole story they needed. Once, a new hire named Anthony asked, "How did you know it was time to go?" We were standing by the line, watching the gauges, the machine clacking in its familiar tempo. I said, "Sometimes the truth shows up like a stack of papers in a pen. Sometimes it shows up slower. Either way, when you see it, the choice is not hard. It is only hard to live with. But you can live with it. You can do more than live with it. You can build on it." He nodded like he might remember that later. In the quiet that followed, the machine hummed. I thought of the house in the old city, the one I left without the keys in my pocket, the note on the counter. I wonder who lived there now. I hoped they had learned how to mow the lawn and did not mind the way the sun fell through the back window at 5 in the afternoon. I hoped they felt at home. I did not need to know. What I needed was here. My work, my neighbor who taught me about engines, my brother who called to tell me about his own small victories, my mother who answered a private investigator's questions with a dial tone, my partner who asked if I needed a hand and meant it, and the man I had become when nobody was looking. That is the life I live now. Not a story about what I escaped. A story about what I chose. A story about the day papers hit a counter, and I signed them without asking anyone to explain my worth to me. A story about how relief arrives in a pickup truck moving south on an 8-hour drive toward a city that did not know my name yet. A story about how peace can creep back in so steadily you do not believe it until you realize you slept through the night and woke up wanting to build something. I used to think the hardest part would be forgiving her. I was wrong. The hardest part was forgiving myself for staying as long as I did with someone who told me the truth early and often in all the ways that mattered. Once I forgave myself, the rest sorted itself out. The calls stopped. The emails stopped. The shadow at the end of the street stopped. The porch light stayed on because I was coming home to a place that existed for me. If there's a moment I keep, it is not the slam of a car door or a whispered apology on a phone line. It is Lauren's hand steadying the door while I set the screws. It is the two of us humming the same song in a quiet car. It is the first time I told my team we would change a schedule because a man needed to see his daughter in a school play and nobody complained because they had all been that man. It is every small choice that says, we matter to each other. My name is Maurice Turner. I am 36 years old. I once signed a set of papers without raising my voice. I left a house that looked like success and drove toward a life that looked like me. I kept going. I learned the sound of peace. I kept it. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.